Hey folks, welcome to Unqualified, the fantasy football podcast that's been ignoring their bills since 2017. I'm your producer, Rob Diesendorf, here with Sean Brady and Scott Johnson, two fantasy football rivals that have been ignoring their bills for years, but they decided to come together to help you ignore your bills and not pay a dime to those collection agencies forever. I got a little lost there.
Yeah,
How's it going, fellas?
You're about as lost as all the bills that are officially part of the pile on my desk. It's a lonely place out there for those bills. And they're not just bills. Like sometimes you get like if you are in a union or whatever, and you get you're entitled to legal counsel, and they need like paperwork. Every time I get that in the mail, I'm like, I'm not going to need legal counsel, and I just throw it off into the pile. So add that as well.
Yeah, we're not just singling out bills. We're talking all kinds of mail.
Yes.
Like wedding invitations.
Parking
I once sent
tickets.
one out. I sent my RSVP out a week late because I just didn't open it for like 2 weeks. Which it wasn't. Now I'm looking back and it wasn't a lot of time to RSVP. But also, I just got a thing in the mail. It's been sitting here for probably a week and a half, and it's my old when I used to go to PT for my shoulder and a breach that they had, and they might have my social security number, like hackers. So that's good. Probably should have known that a week and a half ago.
I am in a place where now some of my mail goes to another address. And,
Your old address?
yeah. And so I just am not getting some mail.
I think someone's getting your mail.
So if there's a warrant out for my arrest at any point, just I'll never know about it. But
It's better that way anyway.
You should let me know.
Everything's fine.
I'm holding a piece of paperwork that has a due date on it. I want you guys to try to guess. It's from this year.
Reverse engineer it. I love this.
I'm gonna say it's a
What is it?
medical bill from a doctor's office.
No.
I'm gonna say it's a course or certificate that you had to take for teaching.
It's related. It's like a I'll tell you what it is, and then you can guess the date that it was due. It's definitely was not done on time. It is essentially, what is this actually? Let me read it. This is the first time I'm reading this.
You gotta check what it is first.
Let's see, what is it?
Can't even tell. See, you can't even tell half the time.
Oh, I got it. Okay, I actually did this. I just didn't. I did it in person. So it was like the life and the $4,000 life insurance thing that you get coverage for at work.
Yeah. Blah blah blah.
First time I saw it, give me guess the date that it was due.
October 22nd.
Ooh, close. Okay.
Oh man, that ruined the fun for me.
What were you gonna say?
I'm not gonna even guess. I was gonna say something crazy.
It was November 1st, so over a month ago.
Ooh.
First time I'm looking at it. So anyway,
honestly, for the things that I've been ignoring in my mail, that really doesn't seem that bad.
that's the top of the pile. The bottom, I can't even go there.
If you look at the bottom of the pile, you just spiral into a deep depression.
You guys want to guess? I just opened this thing about my the physical therapy place, and it literally is. We're running to inform you of an incident involving blank providers may have resulted in unauthorized access to some of your personal information, including your health information.
Oh, God.
Read that. I'm like, oh, fuck you too.
Equifax. I saw that on the paper. I saw it.
Well, I don't know if they actually. We have security
they
services of Equifax to provide you with identity monitoring services. They're going to pay for 12 months for free because of this. It's like Social Security information and stuff like that. It was a phishing attempt.
Yeah.
See if you can guess when this
Equifax
was sent
went
out to
down.
me. I just opened it Monday, December 2nd.
You're pretty responsible, so I would say October 20th.
Nope. Actually, more recent than that.
That's what I figured. I knew it was going to be pretty recent.
But still, it's kind of probably should have opened it.
You take advantage of that.
I wouldn't be surprised if I legally do not have a license right now.
Anyways, November 4th.
That's how many parking tickets I've been ignoring. But then
Parking tickets. That's
else,
no business.
That's not good.
Business.
Something else adjacent to this has happened to me today, and I just want you both to hear this. So I get an email that says, "Oh, your credit card payment is due." And so I go to pay it, and I'm like in a hurry. I'm like at work, and I'm just like, I just got to deal with this, otherwise I'll never do it. And I open up my phone, and like I go through the motions, and I hit the buttons, and then I hit like complete payment, and I'm expecting to pay like the minimum or whatever. It ended up that I paid off the entire card in one shot. And
Today?
I had just saved up money to use on a trip, and it's gone now.
Not anymore.
It's been used to pay off my credit card.
Oh, God.
Sounds like a 2021 trip now.
The most boring use of my money I could have imagined.
Oof,
so
that'll get you.
That's it.
This is a great intro right here. The
I think it's very relatable.
Their ears are probably bleeding because they're like, "Oh shit, I got to check my pile. I got to check the pile at home." Yeah, sorry about that.
I have some recommendations. This is something I heard that like I guess it relates to everything. But once you get something like an email or a task or mail, in this case, you could do 3 things with it. 1, you take care of it right away, so it's off your plate. Like you literally, you bring in mail in and like you open it as you're sitting down. 2, you delegate it, so if it's like supposed to be sent to someone else, do that so it's off your plate. Or 3, you push it off, but you put it to a certain like day and time and like stick to it. Like an alarm you put on your phone for like, all right, I'm going to look at my mail at 10 p.m.
I know what I do. I delegate it to my future self that is really dropping the ball. That's what I do.
Yeah.
Future
I don't know,
Sean.
Scott, that sounds a little too responsible for me, Scott.
Yeah, it definitely is. But
seems like a lot of things to keep tabs on, and I just don't really have that mental.
It's really one thing to keep a tab on. You just do it right away, or you just delegate, like give it to someone else right away, or you do it like a little bit later.
Coming from the guy that doesn't even check his lineup, and I don't know.
That's a good point.
That's all I have to say about that.
Yeah.
Forgets to set his lineup on Sunday at 1:00. By Sunday at 1:00.
Yeah, it's fine. I'm not even going to look at it.
Well, we know.
I'm not even going to look. I'm not looking for the rest of the season, and I don't know what that means for me. But
One
I
more
know
week.
It's not good.
I mean, this
I don't
is
care.
Actually, no more weeks. Yeah, you're good. You didn't make playoffs.
It's officially
Season's already over.
playoff
I'm already
season
done.
in fantasy football, and week 13 was a doozy. Probably knocked a couple people out of contention. If you're like Rob, it was just a fickle reminder of the uselessness of the marginal effort that you did put in at any point this year. And I know Scott's got a rough situation he'd like to get off his chest. So let's give him the floor for a minute. And
I don't
then
even
we can
want
move
to.
on.
Oh my god, I don't even want to get it. Should I get it? We get into it later. I think we should get into it later. I'm so pissed off. Right? I need time to calm down. Teed off.
All right. Well, who went off then in week 13, Scott?
Who went off? Jared Goff. That's all due to that matchup. I mean, Cardinals were 32nd against quarterbacks and tight ends, and I believe 30th against wide receivers. So they were really taking advantage of that. McVay, Darius Geis, 2 touchdowns. James White, 3 touchdowns. Devontae Parker finally putting it together, 2 touchdowns. I don't know why it took him so long in his career, but Robert Woods, I think 15 catches, and Alshon Jeffrey back into the swing of things. Who got hurt? Greg Olsen got a concussion. You got to check that. And Darrell Williams, not that it really mattered for too many people except for me, pulled his hamstring or did something, and he left the game. Big surprise.
Yeah, and you relearned a valuable lesson. We knew all this stuff already, but it's officially playoff time. So the league-wide trend this week is it's time to just make the call that you can live with not working out. It's that simple. We'll talk a lot more about this later in terms of which guys you should play. Flex Friday is going to have a very familiar tone this week where I just say, who's the best player here? You're playing that guy. Yep. But that's the key here in the playoffs, because if you get cute and you lose because of it, it's not going to sit right. It's going to be a little rumble in the tummy there. It's not going to feel very good moving
Probably
forward.
haunt you for weeks.
I'm psyched about the playoffs. Call back to last week. Send us your playoff teams.
Yeah.
We want to know what types of teams made it to the playoffs. We want to know how your teams are doing. So hit us up in the channels. Your teams are our teams. Let's win some money together. Let's make your friends look like idiots. That's why we're here. Playoff time. Let's go.
And if you're two friends, we'll make you both look like idiots.
Playoffs. Okay, we're going to start things off. Before we get into Thursday Night Football, before we get into the dip, your interview, for those of you that are already eliminated, we're kind of doing this on the fly. First off, sorry. Second off, there's still some content out there for you. What have we learned from this fantasy season, 2019, about fantasy football strategies, players, and NFL teams that's going to help us next year? Because this is something that I think when we started doing this last year, it set us up for a lot of success this year. You know, we were talking about the Niners at this point last year as being a team that you could invest in, right? We were talking about guys like Josh Allen and Lamar Jackson in terms of guys that like you can get cheap that'll have a ton of upside, and they both have panned out. So what have we learned here, Scott, this season that we're going to take with us into next year?
Yeah, well, we learned that, first of all, fantasy football is a little bitch. She's a little fickle bitch.
Very fickle.
Very fickle. But it's, you draft for a season-long team, but it's weekly matchups. It's won and lost in the weekly matchups. So, if I'll give you an example, I have one team that in OG is consistently, in the beginning of the season, I started 1-5. I consistently put up the second or third most points for in every single matchup, like 120, and yet I was still losing because it was a weekly matchup. Someone scored more than me in that week. So it's probably better to have, maybe your team goes to like 80 points one week, but also you have the upside to go to 160 instead of guys that like get you 10 points every week. Something I learned, just like food for thought. It depends on how you want to construct your roster, but probably good to get a mix of both at the same time too. But draft young and draft loaded with upside. Courtland Sutton, Kenny Golladay, Derrick Henry, Josh Allen, Lamar Jackson, like you just said. They're young guys loaded with upside. The only way they can go is up.
Hell yeah. And I would say keep in mind that like NFL teams are also valuing youth more than ever. So that's where we should now adjust accordingly as fantasy owners and invest in those guys as well, because we know the NFL teams are invested in them. So for example, when the Raiders take Josh Jacobs at the end of the first round, that's a big investment in a running back. So that should tell us we should invest in that running back because they need to give him the ball to get their return on investment. So stuff like that to keep in mind. Side note, and this is something I always forget. So this is something that screwed me earlier in the year when I was a little overexposed in the Rams. Some good teams are going to suck next year. We don't know who they are, but they will. And some bad teams are going to be really good next year. Well, take for example the Raiders, who were like a solid team last year, but they were lost in the first round of the playoffs. Now they're looking like a Super Bowl contender, and they're fantasy powerhouse, just dynamite fantasy wise. The Niners, even the Bills have a lot of fantasy value. Some bad teams are going to be great next year. So what does that tell you? You need to diversify your draft. It's something I didn't do enough of this year. Something I normally don't do enough of is just spread things out, because worst case scenario, you pick someone that sucks, you can move on. Think about how many guys are on your roster right now that you didn't draft. And you can afford to be wrong on bad players or bad teams, but you gotta take those chances. For example, Courtland Sutton's a guy I would never draft. I never drafted him this year. I didn't even have a thought of drafting him, but I regret not doing it because he's awesome. And there's plenty of guys out there just like him that I ignored because I didn't want to diversify my draft and pick from teams that I thought would be bad. There's still value out there. So that's my biggest takeaway so far. We're going to have a bunch more of these each week so we can kind of keep you eliminated, you cuties, in the loop here. But your interview, getting it started. Sorry you're out of the playoffs. I don't know if you have anything else to add, Scott, but it's time to start gearing up for the Yoffs.
The Yoffs. I think just one quick thing. Draft a kicker and defense in the last 2 rounds. People were taking the Bears defense in like round 9.
Yep.
What are you doing?
And Greg Zuerlein.
Yep. Butker's the only... And kickers, I read this article on 538 that like statistically kickers are the worst they've ever been since like the 80s.
Yikes. You think we got bad? You think we got a shot?
Yeah, I think we do.
I think I could hit from like 40. I don't think I could do anything over that.
Damn, really?
Yeah.
I think my knee will fall off.
Well, think about it, like 30-yard line. I think I could hit that. I don't think it would be automatic, but I think
30-yard line would be a 47-yarder.
Would it? Is it?
You tack on 17 yards, yeah.
Oh, no, I'm talking about like, okay, I see what you're saying. I'm talking about like,
oh, you mean a 30 actual yarder?
Yeah, like the ball is on
40.
the 30, so that would be a 40-yarder. I think I could.
No, if the ball was on the 30, it would be a 47-yarder.
No, I mean, okay, so the ball is on it's snapped on the 17 or whatever it would be. I don't know. I'm terrible at math. If the holder's placing it on the 30, I can hit that. That's what I'll say. The end zone's 10 yards. Am I right? Am I going crazy here? I don't know. All I know is I think I'm better than Adam Vinatieri right now. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah, you definitely are. And Joey Sly.
All right, it's time to buy the dip. But before we buy the dip, guys, have not told you guys this story yet, so I want to take this opportunity to share with you and the listeners. So I went out on Black Friday night with some of the boys, friend of the pod, Andrew Mormon, moving down to D.C. Adios, hermano. And
miss you.
We're having a great time. I had to spice it up at one point. One of our loyal UQDs, Brian Pedrera, I'll shout him out. He's not active in the channels, but he's a loyal listener. We spotted him at the bar, and it was just at that point of the night where it's like, I think he might be ordering food. He wasn't. He was looking at a menu. He wasn't. But I took the opportunity to pull a couple of the other boys aside, and we made a nice friendly wager on what he would have ordered if he was ordering food. We legit bet money on this. They both went with wings. I went with the pretzels and beer cheese dip. Guess who took home an undisclosed amount of money from that wager? Yours truly. It's all about buying the dip. I knew that subliminally we were putting that message out to the UQDs to go buy the dip, and I knew that it would shine through. And I had faith in it, and it worked out. So buy the dip, really paying off for us in a literal and figurative way.
Also,
but now we're moving on to
shout out Pedrera, solid, smart move, getting the pretzel bites instead of the wings. You're gonna have to wash your hands 2-3 times before that gets out of your fingers. So,
absolutely.
Savvy move there.
Yeah, I mean, people are gonna judge me for this, but I don't like the fact that I have to eat chicken wings with my fingers and get all disgusting.
I don't like it at all. It's the only part I don't like.
And a lot of times they're not worth it. Like first off, there's some establishments around here that we know serves a quality buffalo wing. But if it's not, then it's totally not worth it. It's not worth the mess.
Right. Like, I will do the work for a big, juicy wing.
Yes. Crispy.
Like one with a lot of meat on it.
It's got to have some crispness to it.
But if you give me a little skimpy, tiny thing that has barely any meat on it, and I'm just like sucking on a bone, I don't want that. And then I'm gonna get all sticky and dirty for like a very small payoff, and it's not worth my time.
Because your hands, they're getting just as dirty. It doesn't matter if there's no meat in the bone or there's meat in the bone. Yeah. They're getting just as dirty.
Basically, what I'm saying is, don't waste my time.
The innuendos of what Rob just said, listeners, please just click the nice 15-second rewind button and listen to that in a different frame of mind. I promise you will not regret that. I think we should keep moving to our 7-layer dip for heading into week 14. I'm coming on strong. I know the last 2 weeks I've had a lot of doubt from members of this panel, but I think this dip is unassailable. 7-layer dip, best vehicle for consumption, Tostito scoops. And let me throw my take out here. There's a lot of bad 7-layer dips out there, but when it's done well, I think this is the absolute cream of the crop dip. This is the king of dips if it's executed correctly.
So you're saying the dip is the 7-layer dip?
Yes, it's called 7-layer dip.
I thought you were gonna do the beer cheese dip.
No, we did that already.
We did that, yeah.
Did we?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. 7-layer dip. Okay. I agree. This is a good dip.
Finally. I knew it. I knew it would get you.
It's so good.
I'm a big fan.
It's honestly more than a dip. It's like a meal on a chip.
Yeah, you could throw it in. You could actually the vehicle for consumption could also just be a fork because it's so good.
Yeah.
We need to make a very distinct delineation here, though.
Okay.
in my opinion, it 1000%. I mean, most of it has cheese. It needs to be heated up. It can't be cold. 7-layer dip.
100%
Definitely
agree.
has to be hot.
Okay. All right. Good. I'm glad we're in agreement on that too. Because I've had some like cold dips. Maybe like they just like cooled off from not being in the oven recently, but like it's not that good. It's like the cheese needs to be melted on.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, all right. So that's a lot easier than I thought it would be. Okay.
I think
Pretty boring when we all agree.
Yeah, no. One thing that we should look at here is the actual 7 ingredients and say what the best one is. So, because I was trying to think about it, and I was like, I could probably name 3 or 4 off the top of my head, but I had to look it up. So
What are the 7 layers?
Huh?
Yeah, let's count them
What
off.
are the 7 layers?
The dish typically includes 1, refried beans, 2, guacamole, 3, sour cream, 4, pico de gallo, salsa roja, salsa verde, or chopped tomatoes, 5, grated cheddar, Monterey Jack, queso asadero, queso chihuahua, or some blend, 6, black olives, and then 7 is optional, but includes some maybe like chopped onions, cooked ground beef, shredded lettuce, sliced jalapeno chilies.
Okay.
It's got to be the ground beef.
First
First
of
of
all,
all, include that.
you got to go with the ground beef.
Yep.
And I think
Heated
that's
and with ground
I think
beef.
that's the key ingredient too. I think that's the best of the ingredients because
I agree.
that brings it all together with that super
base.
saltiness.
Yep.
Like you need that to cut through the rest of the stuff.
It's the protein base for the full experience. Because I'll say if there was no beef, there would be no layer that could stand on its own. Like if you're trying to say like, oh, what's the best layer out of those 7 layers? It's got to be the beef. It can't be like because I'm not going to eat a spoonful of refried beans. I'm not going to eat a spoonful of sour cream. I might eat a spoonful of cheese.
Yeah,
Definitely would.
I'm gonna
But,
go ahead.
I'm not going to be happy about it.
I'm gonna slightly disagree, and the only reason I slightly disagree is I, as much as anyone, enjoy some cooked ground beef, on or not on a 7-layer dip. But the hallmark to me of a 7-layer dip is a heated dip that has melted cheese coming out of it, and it has to be Monterey Jack. Monterey Jack and cheddar cheese. In my opinion, you need like a blend. But if it doesn't have melted
color
cheese
mix.
on it, like what really is it? It needs it just brings it all together.
Right.
Kind of that savory, like creamy end to it. So
Sure.
if I needed to, I don't want to. I could go without the ground beef, but I can't go without melted cheese on top of a 7-layer dip.
Well, I think the question is, what is the best layer out of those 7? It's not like you're not going to have the other layers if you choose one that's the best.
But that's one way to define the best layer. Is
Right.
like
The best layer
is what's pulling the most weight there.
Right.
I don't know.
Well, I'm saying the best layer for the 7-layer dip. Like I'm honestly saying the MVP layer here. Like what's most important to this actual dip?
You think the MVP layer is the cheese?
Melted cheese. Yeah.
Melted cheese. I mean, it's very good. But I'm just going to go with the beef layer because I just feel like it's like the anchor to the whole dip.
But if you took out the ground beef, because I've had 7-layer dips without beef. I've never had a 7-layer dip without cheese. If you took out the beef and had the dip without the beef, with something else, and then simultaneous, you had the 7-layer dip but no cheese whatsoever. Like what constitutes more of a 7-layer dip in your opinion?
That's a good point, and it's thought-provoking.
Thanks.
But I still feel like the beef is the MVP for me.
Yeah.
Regardless of whether the dip stands on its own without it, I still feel like I enjoy the beef the most when it's there.
Yep.
Fair.
I'm for once in total agreement with Rob. I think that ground beef with that like I don't even know what spices they put on that thing. Oh my god. Sign me up. My mouth is
like taco
legitimately
seasoning.
watering. Oh yeah. Sign me up.
Taco seasoning is incredible. I don't know where it all originated, but it's seems to be from Mexico. Mexicans, you guys fucking nailed it. Great job.
They really did. Nicely done. And I think this is nice that we all kind of finally agree on something here. I'm gonna have to get a nice contentious one for next week. But 7-layer dip, I think potentially our favorite dip so far this year, and that's saying a lot. We have had some great dips on here. Now, it's obviously past trade deadline season here, Scott, but what dips are you buying here in terms of the waivers heading into the playoffs? What moves are you making this week?
Well, since there's only about 7 good tight ends out there, you're buying tight end stock in the form of formerly tight end 2s, but spot starts and streamers like Tyler Higbee, as long as what's the other guy's name?
Gerald Everett.
As long as Gerald Everett is out. Kyle Rudolph, Ryan Griffin on the Jets.
Oh, I love Ryan Griffin.
Yeah, he's a beast.
Hell yeah.
These guys will get you through to the promised land.
Additionally, don't be afraid if your starting quarterback is like one of those lower tier guys to pick up a nice mixer. Like, I know you probably hate yourself, but Jameis Winston, like, you could do worse,
man.
Even if he throws 4 picks, he's still going to put up a respectable fantasy day most weeks. So, for example, if your starter is, let's see, who's like that, like 10, 11 range right now? I don't even know, honestly.
10,
like maybe a Carson Wentz type. Like, he looked great this week, but fantasy wise, but not in person, and he's had a rough couple weeks before that. Like, pick up a second quarterback, and then if you need it, throw him in there. The roster space
is not owned in a lot of leagues still.
Exactly. Like that roster space needs to be functional for you right now. Otherwise, it's just wasted. The only reason I would hold a guy that you're not going to play is because you're worried that if you drop him, a playoff opponent will pick him up. It's the only reason I would justify that to myself. And even then, it's all about maximizing what your team can do. So don't be afraid to cut some guys loose, especially guys that are hurt. Like, if you haven't dropped AJ Green by now, just do it.
Enough.
Save yourself some time and aggravation. So, other than that, I mean, it's time to. We're going to talk a bit more about this on Friday, but it's time to just play the guys that got you there. So when we say start your studs, we mean start your studs from this year. So, for example, Courtland Sutton is a stud this year. Just throwing a name out there that some people may not associate with, being a stud, but he is. So if you have Courtland Sutton and you have another guy like, I don't know, Joe Mixon, like, start Courtland Sutton. Keep it simple for yourself.
Yeah, no brainer. Even though it's a third string quarterback that's throwing it to him. Thursday Night Football. What do we got? Cowboys at Bears.
Are we sure these teams are good and or bad? Like, what are these teams?
I don't know. They're so middling. It's like, I want to puke when I watch them. But I love that the Cowboys are not doing well, and they're like
Me too.
in shambles now. It's so great. 3-0, and everyone's like, oh my god, how about them boys? Super Bowl. It's like, shut up, man. You lost to the Jets, who just lost to the Bengals. So basically, you're worse than the Bengals. Now you're 6-6, and you're gonna fire Garrett. Get out.
And the first off, have you seen any headline that is less shocking than Michael Bennett screaming at someone in the locker room?
There's something wrong with that guy.
Oh my god, yikes. With that being said, I still like them here, even on the road against the Bears. I just think they're so much more talented. Their quarterback is light years better. And I was watching the Bears-Lions game, and it kind of came back to bite me in the ass in the second half, but I legitimately said on every play, I think Mitch Trubisky is the worst quarterback in the league. And that might not be true, but for a half, it was absolutely true. And I think, not that the Cowboys are world beaters on defense, but Mitch is just not good. He's just not good. So give me the Cowboys here.
Father of the pod, Neil Johnson, said he takes a long time to actually, from the snap, from when he decides to throw the ball to when he's actually releasing the ball. Really slow release.
Yep.
And it's true when you watch him, he stares down a receiver, plants his feet sometimes, and then throws in. It's like the defense is already there.
You also know, I heard this from, shout out Ringer NFL Pod, first off. Great stuff. Robert Mays was talking about something that I think goes very unmentioned. The reason that they can't check out of protections, or actually no, this is a whole nother story, but Mitch can't check out of protections. So they need to play I don't know which offensive lineman it is, but one of them, he needs to play center instead of his preferred spot so that he can call the protections out because their quarterback isn't capable of doing it. So now that guy can't play at his preferred spot, so he's worse. And the guy that's playing, I think it might be James Daniels. I don't know. And the guy that's plugged into the line is worse. than that guy would be at left guard or whatever position is. So they're essentially worse at 2 offensive line spots because Mitch Trubisky can't figure out how to check out of protections in his second year in the league. So
are you kidding?
Just throwing it out
third
there.
year.
Third year. Oh my God. Yeah. So that tells you all you need to know about the Bears. Yikes.
Yikes.
And honestly, Matt Nagy, I don't think he's done a great job making Mitch's job easy, but
no.
Coach of the Year candidate for winning this many games with that situation going on, I don't know. I mean, obviously, it's not a serious candidate, but I feel for the guy. I think he's actually a pretty good coach, and I think you could just see how disappointed he is with their decision to draft him every week. It's depressing to look at.
I don't know. I think I disagree with you there. He's had almost 2 seasons now, and he's just Matt Nagy, and I don't know. None of the all the offensive plays are just like so boring, cookie cutter, and they don't make any sense in order. I don't even think he's a good offensive coordinator.
I'm going to push back. A lot of people say, "Oh, you got to get Mitch out on the run. You got to get him doing this." Mitch is scared of contact, so you can't call that much fun stuff when you have a quarterback that is legitimately playing in fear. So I agree. I don't think he's done a great job as a coach this year, but I just think that he may not be. Obviously, he might not be the long-term answer, but I don't think he's actually the root of the problem right now. I just think Mitch is not an NFL starting quarterback. So
I think if Mitch is like so scared of contact, though, then just bench him. Just bench his ass.
Right.
Sorry.
Exactly.
Your fucking shoulder, like, it hurt. I get it. Like, your shoulder hurts. Okay. Like, and you don't want contact. Then sit.
Right.
That's the game. That's my decision as a head coach. Like, I'm going to sit you then. And Chase Daniel, who's probably a top 5 backup quarterback, who's not by any means shouldn't be a starter, but like journeyman, been around. They won a couple of games with him last year. Put him in the game then, and like put a game plan in place for Chase Daniel then, and use Tariq Cohen. Like, use the weapons. You're not using any weapons. It's crazy. Anthony Miller finally had in his 2.5 years in the league, or year and a half, 9 for 140 this past week. Finally, he's never had a game like that. I don't understand.
Let me throw this out there. I totally agree on Anthony Miller. That's why we were so high on him coming into the year. We knew he had that potential. Would you rather have... You are the Bears right now. Would you rather have Mitch or Blake Bortles?
Ooh.
I would take Blake all effing day. Because at least, I think they're the same player. I just think Blake Bortles is a tougher dude and has a higher ceiling because he'll run like a maniac. And he's like one of the highest yards per carry for a quarterback in the history of NFL. So...
I think, honestly, I think I would take Mitch. I think what I'm looking at right now is Blake Bortles has been in the league for 5 or 6 years now, right?
Yeah,
I think 6th year. We have 5 years of tape and stats on him. We know what he is. He's a 78 QB rating quarterback. He had one outlier year where he had 35 touchdowns. He also had like 17 picks that year too.
Okay,
with moderate weapons, Allen Robinson, okay running game. We know what he is. I saw what Mitch could do last year when he was fully healthy. Yeah, he needs to be fully healthy. His rookie year, throw it away. It's every quarterback's rookie year is kind of an outlier. But last year, up until he got hurt, he was running the ball effectively. I know he doesn't like contact, but he was putting up fantasy-wise. If you remember, he had 3 weeks in a row or 4 weeks in a row where he put up like 40 points each week.
True.
And he was a starter. He had 24 touchdowns, 12 interceptions off the top of my head. Pretty good passer. Made huge strides the second year. Third year, I'm going to throw it away as like a hurt year. Defense isn't carrying him as much. I would probably rather have Mitch because I know I can fix his ways at this early in his career. Blake Bortles is kind of set already. Drafted in like 2013 or 14, I think.
Damn, that's a good point. And so I think we'll still disagree on that, but one thing we will definitely agree on, we'd rather have Dak Prescott, and I think the Cowboys win this game because their quarterback and their running back and their receivers are just better players.
Yep. And if Kenny Golladay with a third-string quarterback can burn the Bears, more on that later, then Amari Cooper probably could too.
And that wraps up our Week 13 recap. It's playoff time. It's 7-layer dip season. It is time to finally crack a dent into the pile on your desk. Or not. Maybe not. Probably not. Definitely not. It's time.
If you like 7-layer dip, leave a review.
Oh, okay.
And if you haven't checked your mail, leave a review. If you are breathing right now, leave a review.
And if you go ahead.
Go ahead, Scott.
No,
if
you
Scott
go.
talks over me, leave a review.
Wow. Were you harboring that all season? Is this all coming out tonight?
So if Scott talks over me, just leave a review. So just go ahead.
I'm not going to say another word in the vicinity of you talking.
Scott, you have something you want to say?
Nope.
Okay. So you heard us, right? You know what'll happen if you don't leave a review. We've been through this. I'll personally come to your house, and I will hunt you down, and I'll find out where all your friends and your family live, and I will hunt them down.
Oh my god!
Don't interrupt.
I have a very special set of skills that allows me to find all of your family members and force them to leave reviews on our podcast page. And then, after they all leave reviews, you'll be the odd man out.
Oh, they'll all be talking about it. Be like, oh, how's that review you left on UQ's page? Oh, my review was great. What about you? You cutie.
It'll be the talk of the town. It'll be like when everybody started watching Game of Thrones and you didn't. And then all of a sudden everyone's talking about it. And now you're out of the loop. And now you're just a big, dumb loser. Because you didn't leave a review.
Don't be
Is
a
that
big
what you
dumb
want?
loser. Don't be a big dumb loser. Leave a review. That's all we got to say.
Sean, don't interrupt Rob while he's in the middle.
Follow the motto. Live Moss, people. Live Moss. Take a risk.
I think it's hard not
if
to interrupt Rob because he doesn't shut up for like 2.5 minutes straight. That's why.
If going to your iTunes app and leaving a review on our podcast is taking a risk for you, go and do that. Get wild.
I like that. Get wild. Leave a review. And we'll see you on Friday.
Well, see you later.
See you later.